The warning lights flashed red across the monitoring station's main deck. Chief Scanner looked up from his meal, annoyed at the interruption. Another piece of space junk, no doubt. The sensors were always picking up debris from old mining operations or dead satellites drifting through the outer rim. Walked over to his console, his 4 arms moving in practiced motions as he pulled up the readings. His species, had been running deep space monitoring for the Empire for over 300 years. They were good at it. Their natural ability to process multiple data streams made them perfect for watching the empty space between star systems. But these readings were different. The energy signature was strange, not like the usual metal chunks or ice chunks that floated through space. This was powered, moving under its own control. Frowned, his large eyes focusing on the numbers scrolling across his screen. The object was big, ship-sized, but the power readings were all wrong. Instead of the clean energy signatures of modern ships, this thing was burning through space using fusion. Fusion. Had only read about such primitive technology in history books. "Computer, identify vessel type," he said aloud. "Working," the computer replied in its calm voice. "Energy signature does not match any known Empire vessel. Propulsion system appears to be nuclear fusion. Hull composition unknown. Weapons detected." Breathing slowed. Unknown vessel with weapons in Empire space was a serious matter. He was about to call his supervisor when the computer spoke again. "Warning, vessel is transmitting identification beacon." "Put it on speakers," ordered. Static filled the room. Then, clear as starlight, came a voice speaking in the old trade language that most species had stopped using centuries ago. The message was simple and repeated every 30 seconds. "This is UES Retribution, Terran Navy. This vessel is operating under Earth Defense Protocol 7. Stay clear." His 4 hearts stopped beating for a moment. Terran, that meant human, but humans were supposed to be gone, dead, lost. The computer had to be wrong. "Computer, confirm vessel origin." "Confirmed. Vessel is of Terran origin. Hull design matches ancient Earth Navy patterns. Warning, this information requires immediate escalation to High Command." The scanner array began automatic emergency procedures. Red lights flashed throughout the station. Every screen displayed the same message. Priority 1 alert. Every communication channel in the sector received the same burst transmission. Within minutes, Admiral On received the alert on his flagship 3 systems away. The Admiral was a veteran of dozens of conflicts. He had commanded fleets that conquered star systems. He had seen plasma cannons melt entire moons. Nothing in the galaxy scared him. Until he read the message. "Sir," his aide, a young with blue skin, looked at him with concern. "Admiral, should I prepare the fleet for battle?" Admiral On stared at the tactical display. A single dot moved slowly through Empire space. 1 ship, but if the readings were correct, this was no ordinary ship. "Get me Emperor," he said quietly. "Emergency channel." "Sir, the Emperor has been in stasis sleep for 300 years. The protocols require." "Wake him up," Admiral On's voice cracked like a whip. "Do it now." Across the Empire, the news spread through military channels first, then leaked to civilian networks. On trading stations, merchant ships stopped mid-journey. On factory worlds, production lines shut down as workers abandoned their posts. On the capital planet of Nexus Prime, crowds gathered around public information screens. The ancient history books were pulled from storage. Scholars who had spent their lives studying dead languages were suddenly the most important people in the Empire, because everyone remembered the stories, the whispered tales that parents told children to make them behave. Stories about the death, the species that came from a planet so dangerous that everything on it was trying to kill everything else. The bipedal creatures that had somehow not only survived their toxic, radiation-soaked world, but had spread across the stars like a virus. Most species had evolved on peaceful worlds. They had developed technology to solve problems. Humans had evolved on a world that wanted them dead. They had developed technology to kill things more efficiently. Emperor woke from his long sleep in the imperial palace. His medical staff worked quickly to bring him back to full consciousness. The drugs that kept him young during stasis took time to clear from his system. "Report," he said, his voice rough from centuries of silence. "Your Majesty, a human warship has entered our territory." The Emperor sat up slowly. His species, lived for thousands of years. He was old enough to remember the stories his own grandfather had told him. Stories about the last time humans had moved through this part of the galaxy. "How many ships?" "One, Your Majesty." Emperor closed his eyes. One ship. The humans were sending one ship. That was somehow worse than if they had sent 1,000. "Evacuate the outer rim colonies," he ordered. "Begin emergency protocols, and get me Admiral on." Back at the monitoring station, watched his screens with growing horror. The human ship was not trying to hide. It was not avoiding detection. It was flying straight through Empire space as if it owned every star in the galaxy. And maybe, thought as he remembered the old stories, maybe it did. The ship's course was plotted on his main screen. It was heading toward the core systems, toward the most populated worlds in the Empire, toward planets that held billions of citizens who had never seen war. Opened another channel to High Command. "This is Monitor Station 7. The human vessel is maintaining course toward Nexus Prime. Time to intercept core systems, 47 hours." The response came back immediately. "All fleet units converge on Grid 77 Alpha. Priority 1 engagement. Emperor's direct order, stop that ship." But as watched the human vessel continue its steady path through space, burning through the void on its ancient fusion engines, he wondered if all the fleets in the Empire would be enough. The humans were back, and the galaxy was about to remember why their ancestors had been so afraid. The news hit the civilian networks 12 hours later. Despite military attempts to keep the information classified, word spread through the Empire like fire through dry grass. A human ship was coming. On Nexus Prime, the Empire's capital world, crowds gathered in the great plazas. The planet held 40 billion citizens from dozens of species. Most had never seen violence beyond what they watched in entertainment programs. War was something that happened on distant frontier worlds, not in the heart of civilization. But everyone knew the stories about humans. Pushed through the crowd, her tentacles wrapped tightly around her offspring. She was a traitor, part of a species that had joined the Empire peacefully 3 centuries ago. Her people had given up their weapons when they joined the galactic community. There was no need for such primitive things in a civilized society. Now she wished her ancestors had kept at least a few guns. "Mama, what's happening?" her child asked, his small voice barely audible above the noise of the crowd. "Nothing, little one, just some excitement." But skin was turning the pale blue color that meant fear in her species. She had read the old histories in school. She knew what humans did to planets they conquered. They turned them into glass. The Imperial Stock Exchange crashed within 6 hours of the news breaking. Traders from across the galaxy dumped their holdings and converted everything to precious metals and fuel. Ships that could carry cargo were suddenly worth 10 times their value as citizens tried to buy passage to the outer rim. The embassy announced they were suspending all diplomatic relations and recalling their citizens. The hegemony of free worlds closed their borders. 3 minor species broadcast immediate surrender messages on all frequencies. Hopping human listeners would mark their worlds as non-threatening. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor studied the ancient records with his advisors. The holographic displays showed star charts from the last time humans had moved through this region. Red marks indicated systems that had been completely destroyed. Yellow marks showed worlds that had been attacked but survived. There were far more red marks than yellow ones. "The pattern is clear, Your Majesty," said historical advisor. His species had perfect memory, able to recall every detail they had ever learned. Humans do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They eliminate threats entirely. "But we are not threatening them," protested Defense Minister. "We have no conflict with Earth. We have not even seen humans for 2,000 years. Emperor pointed to one section of the star chart. "The Glass Wars, 57 inhabited systems, population of over 300 billion, all destroyed because they attacked a single human cargo ship." The room fell silent. Every advisor stared at the red marks on the display. Entire civilizations had been wiped out over one ship. "What happened to the cargo ship?" asked Minister. "It was destroyed. All hands lost. 23 humans died." Emperor's voice was quiet. "The humans spent 15 years hunting down every government, military leader, and citizen who had been involved. They did not stop until those 57 systems were empty." Admiral On entered the chamber, his armor bearing fresh scars from hasty repairs. He had been pushing his engines beyond safe limits to reach the capital. "Your Majesty, the fleets are in position. We have 800 ships surrounding the human vessel, our most advanced weapons, our best crews." "Will it be enough?" the Emperor asked. Admiral On hesitated. He was a career military officer. He had never lost a battle. His fleets carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated. "I do not know, Your Majesty. Our simulations show that our weapons should easily destroy their ship, but the simulations also show that their weapons should not be able to harm us. Human technology is 2,000 years behind ours. Their ship runs on fusion power and fires physical projectiles." "But," the Emperor prompted. "But they are humans, Your Majesty. Logic has never applied to them." Deep in the palace archives, teams of scholars worked around the clock to find any information about human weaknesses. The records were fragmentary and often contradictory. Some sources claimed humans were physically weak, requiring artificial environments to survive. Others described them as incredibly durable, able to function in conditions that would kill most species. One thing was consistent across all records: humans were unpredictable and extremely violent. Professor, the Empire's leading expert on extinct civilizations, stood before a massive display showing everything they knew about human society. It was not much. "They are social hunters," she explained to the Emergency Council. "Most species developed intelligence to avoid conflict. Humans developed intelligence to be better at killing. Their entire society is built around the concept of organized violence." "Surely they must have some peaceful members," suggested Minister. "Scientists, artists, philosophers." "Oh, they do," Professor replied. "But even their scientists design better weapons. Their artists create propaganda that motivates soldiers. Their philosophers write justifications for war. Everything in human society serves their military in some way." She changed the display to show human anatomical studies. "Look at their physical structure. Forward-facing eyes for judging distances when attacking prey. Hands designed for gripping tools and weapons. Teeth adapted for eating meat. They are predators, Minister. Apex predators from a world that taught them to kill or die." Outside the palace, riots were beginning in the lower city. Citizens demanded immediate evacuation off-world. The spaceports were overwhelmed with people trying to buy passage on any ship heading away from the core systems. But there were not enough ships. The Empire had grown comfortable with peace. Most of their vessels were cargo haulers and passenger liners. Few civilian ships were designed for long journeys or emergency evacuations. News reports showed similar scenes across the Empire. The government was loading essential personnel onto military transports. On station, civilians were breaking into cargo holds, trying to hide among shipments bound for distant stars. And still the human ship came, steady and unstoppable, burning through space toward the heart of the Empire. In his flagship, Admiral On reviewed tactical displays that made no sense. His sensor teams reported that the human ship's weapons were primitive rail guns and nuclear missiles, technology that the Empire had abandoned centuries ago as inefficient. But the ship's armor was reading as impossibly dense, materials that should not exist according to Imperial science, and its course was perfectly straight, showing no attempt to avoid the massive fleet waiting for it. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "The human ship is now 12 hours from intercept. It has not responded to any of our communications." Admiral On nodded. In 12 hours, the galaxy would learn if the old stories about humans were true. He hoped they were just myths. But deep in his heart, he knew better. Commander Sarah stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. 800 ships. The entire Imperial fleet was waiting for them, spread out in a formation that could destroy most star systems. She was not impressed. "Status report," she said to her weapons officer. "All rail guns charged and ready. Nuclear arsenal at full capacity. Kinetic rounds loaded. We're ready for whatever they throw at us, Commander." Sarah nodded. The Retribution was a newer ship by Earth standards, only 50 years old. She carried the latest in human military technology, which meant she was designed to destroy things efficiently and survive whatever tried to destroy her back. Her crew was small by galactic standards. Only 200 humans ran the entire ship, but every one of them was a veteran of the border wars, where humanity had fought against machines and monsters in the dark between stars. They had seen real combat, not the polite conflicts that passed for war in the Empire. "Communications," Sarah ordered. "Open a channel to the lead Imperial ship." "Channel open, Commander." "Imperial Fleet, this is Commander Sarah of the United Earth Systems Navy. I am requesting information about the location of the Earth colony ship New Geneva. Our records show it disappeared in this sector 18 months ago. Please respond." Sarah waited. She had read the files on Imperial species before entering their territory. They were typical galactic citizens, peaceful, advanced, soft. They had not fought a real war in centuries because they had never needed to. The response came in accented but clear English. "Human vessel, this is Admiral of the Imperial Fleet. You have entered Empire space without authorization. Withdraw immediately or we will be forced to take action." Sarah looked at her tactical officer, Lieutenant. The young man was grinning. He had bet the other officers that the Empire would try diplomacy first instead of shooting. "Admiral, I will repeat my request once more. We are looking for our missing colonists. The New Geneva carried 50,000 Earth citizens. They were traveling to establish a new settlement in unclaimed space. Their last known position was in your territory." "We have no knowledge of any human ships in our space," the Admiral replied. "Now withdraw or—" Sarah cut the transmission. "Lieutenant, what's your assessment of their fleet?" "Typical galactic design, Commander. Energy shields, plasma weapons, advanced targeting systems. They outgun us about 400 to 1. And what's our advantage?" Grin got wider. "They've never fought humans before." Sarah turned to address her crew. 200 pairs of eyes looked back at her. Men and women from every continent on Earth, representing humanity's finest military traditions. They were volunteers who had signed up knowing they might never see home again. "Crew of the Retribution," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system. "We came here looking for our people. 50,000 Earth citizens who disappeared while trying to find a new home. The Empire says they don't know anything about it." She paused, letting that sink in. "I think they're lying, and I think our people are somewhere in this territory, possibly in trouble. We're going to find them. If the Empire wants to stop us, they're welcome to try." The crew responded with a cheer that would have terrified any species that heard it. Humans cheering for battle sounded like nothing else in the galaxy. On his flagship, Admiral On was having second thoughts about confronting the human ship. His tactical displays showed the Retribution approaching steadily, ignoring the massive fleet surrounding it. The ship was gray and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. It looked like it had been designed by someone who expected to be shot at frequently. "Admiral, should we open fire?" his weapons officer asked. Admiral On hesitated. His orders were clear: stop the human ship. But something about the way it moved through space, completely unconcerned by the 800 weapons pointed at it, made him nervous. "Try communication one more time. All frequencies." His communications officer worked frantically, sending messages in every language in the Empire. Mathematical concepts, pictographs, even simple light patterns. Anything to get the humans to respond. Finally, the human ship answered. "Admiral On, this is Commander. Since you claim to have no knowledge of our missing colonists, I will conduct my own search. Do not interfere with our operations." "Human ship, you cannot simply search Empire territory without permission. There are protocols, legal procedures." The transmission cut off again. This time, the human ship began broadcasting on an open channel that every vessel in the sector could hear. "Attention all Imperial forces and civilian vessels. The United Earth Systems Navy is conducting search and rescue operations in this sector. We are looking for the colony ship New Geneva and 50,000 Earth citizens. Any interference with our mission will be considered an act of war against humanity." Admiral On felt his blood turn cold. Act of war against humanity. He knew what that meant from the history books. "All ships maintain formation but do not fire unless fired upon," he ordered. "I'm going to try talking to them face to face." His aide looked at him with concern. "Admiral, regulations state that unknown alien vessels should be destroyed immediately if they refuse to leave Imperial space." "Regulations were written by beings who never had to face humans," the Admiral replied. "I'm not starting a war that could end our entire civilization over a bureaucratic procedure." The human ship was close enough now that they could see it clearly on visual displays. It was smaller than most Imperial vessels but somehow more intimidating. The hull was and pitted, showing signs of countless battles. Weapon systems that should have been obsolete were mounted all along its length. But it was the way the ship moved that bothered Admiral On the most. No hesitation, no caution. It flew through space like it owned every star in the galaxy. "Human vessel Retribution. This is Admiral On requesting direct communication with your commander. I believe we can resolve this situation peacefully." This time, Commander's image appeared on the main screen. She was smaller than the Admiral had expected, but her eyes were the coldest things he had ever seen. She looked like someone who had made peace with death a long time ago. "Admiral, I'll make this simple for you. Somewhere in your territory, 50,000 of my people are missing. I intend to find them. You can help me or you can get out of my way. Those are your options." "And if we refuse?" Commander smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you'll learn why the rest of the galaxy is afraid of us." Admiral made his decision 30 minutes after the human ultimatum ended. He had consulted with High Command, reviewed every regulation in the Imperial Military Code, and studied the tactical situation from every possible angle. The humans had to be stopped. One ship could not be allowed to dictate terms to the entire Empire. "All ships battle stations," he broadcast to the fleet. "Target the human vessel. Prepare for limited engagement. We will disable their engines and weapons, then board them for questioning." His weapons officer looked up from her console. "Admiral, their ship is maintaining course. No defensive maneuvers, no shield activation. They're just sitting there." Admiral On frowned. The human ship should be running, or fighting, or doing something other than flying straight toward 800 Imperial warships like it was on a peaceful trading mission. Perhaps they don't understand the situation, suggested his tactical officer. Or perhaps, the Admiral said quietly, they understand it better than we do. On the Retribution, Commander watched the Imperial ships move into attack formation with professional interest. The Empire's military doctrine was clean and efficient. Overlapping fields of fire, redundant targeting systems, coordinated shield matrices. Against any normal opponent, it would be devastating. Lieutenant, what's our engagement time? 17 minutes until they're in optimal firing range, Commander. Though they could hit us now if they wanted to burn through more power. Let them get close. I want them to get a good look at what happens next. Opened a ship-wide communication channel. All hands, this is your commander. The Empire has decided to try stopping us by force. You know the drill, make it educational. Throughout the ship, humans began final preparations for battle. But there was no panic, no fear. They moved with the calm efficiency of predators who had done this many times before. The Imperial fleet opened fire at exactly 1400 hours, ship time. 200 plasma cannons fired simultaneously. Each weapon carried enough energy to vaporize a city block. The combined firepower could have melted a small moon. The coordinated barrage lit up space like a miniature star. The Retribution disappeared behind a wall of blue fire. Direct hit, reported the Imperial weapons officer. Full power discharge across the entire target area. No ship could survive that. Admiral On nodded grimly. He had not wanted to destroy the humans entirely, but they had given him no choice. At least it had been quick. The fire faded. Space returned to its normal black. The Retribution was still there. Impossible, whispered the weapons officer. The energy readings alone should have vaporized any known material. The human ship's hull was glowing red-hot in places. Armor plating had been melted and fused, but the ship was intact. More importantly, it was still moving forward. Status report, Admiral On demanded. Their engines are still active. Weapon systems appear to be charging. Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildup throughout their ship. How are they still functional? Our weapons should have. The Admiral's question was answered by the Retribution's response. The human ship did not fire energy weapons. Instead, it launched a barrage of what the Imperial sensors classified as primitive kinetic projectiles. Metal slugs accelerated to impossible speeds by electromagnetic coils. The galaxy had abandoned such weapons centuries ago as inefficient compared to plasma and laser systems. But the humans had never stopped improving them. The first railgun round hit Admiral On's flagship at 30% the speed of light. The Imperial shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no resistance to a physical projectile moving at relativistic speeds. The slug punched through the flagship's hull like it was made of paper. The ship's beautiful crystalline structure shattered as the projectile tore through 17 decks before exiting out the other side. Admiral was thrown from his command chair as his ship died around him. Emergency lights flickered as power systems failed. Atmosphere vented from dozens of hull breaches. Damage report, he shouted over the chaos. Hull breach on all decks, main power offline, engines failing. Admiral, we need to evacuate. But the humans were not finished. Nuclear-tipped missiles, technology the Empire considered barbarically obsolete, streaked towards 6 more Imperial vessels. The warheads detonated not against the ship's hulls, but near them, creating spheres of plasma hotter than the core of a star. The Empire's advanced ships were designed to fight clean, civilized battles with energy weapons and smart targeting systems. They were not designed to survive nuclear fireballs that ignored shields and melted hulls through sheer thermal energy. 6 Imperial ships simply ceased to exist in expanding clouds of vaporized metal. The rest of the fleet recoiled in shock. In less than 3 minutes, the humans had destroyed 7 ships with weapons that should have been useless against Imperial technology. "All ships fall back," Admiral ordered from his dying flagship. "Regroup at safe distance." But the Retribution was not pursuing. Instead, it resumed its original course, flying past the scattered Imperial fleet as if they were not worth the effort to destroy completely. Commander opened a communication channel to the entire Imperial fleet. Her voice was calm, almost bored. "Admiral, your ships are burning. I suggest you focus on saving your crews instead of fighting us. This was a demonstration. Next time, I won't be so gentle." She paused, letting that sink in. "We are still looking for the New Geneva and our 50,000 colonists. The sooner you help us find them, the sooner we leave your territory. Think about it." The communication ended. The human ship continued toward the Imperial core systems, leaving behind 7 wrecks and 800 crews who finally understood what their ancestors had tried to warn them about. Admiral On was evacuated to a medical frigate while his flagship broke apart. As he watched the Retribution disappear into hyperspace, he realized something that chilled him to his core. The humans had not been trying to win the battle. They had been teaching a lesson. The difference between the Empire's most advanced weapons and humanity's primitive technology was not sophistication. It was lethality. Energy weapons were designed to disable and capture. Human weapons were designed to kill. And when it came to killing, humans had thousands of years more experience than the rest of the galaxy combined. "Get me Emperor," he ordered weakly. "Tell him the humans are not our enemies." "Sorry. They're our superiors, and we just failed our first test." Emperor stood in the deepest archives beneath the Imperial Palace, surrounded by documents that had been sealed for 2,000 years. The ancient storage vault smelled of age and forgotten secrets. Historical advisor worked frantically beside him, his perfect memory racing through centuries of deliberately buried records. "Here, Your Majesty," said, his voice shaking. "The complete files on the glass wars." The holographic display filled with images that made the Emperor's blood turn cold. Star systems reduced to crystalline wastelands, planets cracked open like eggs, entire species that had simply vanished from galactic records. But it was not the destruction that horrified him, it was the reason for it. "One cargo ship," he said quietly. "They destroyed 57 inhabited systems because pirates attacked one cargo ship. 23 humans died, Your Majesty. The pirates thought they were just raiding another merchant vessel. They had no idea what species they were attacking." Emperor studied the tactical reports. The humans had not attacked immediately. First, they had sent messages demanding the return of their dead and compensation for the families. When the pirates laughed at their primitive demands, the humans had sent one ship to negotiate. The pirates had destroyed that ship too. Then the humans had sent their fleet. How long did it take them to find every pirate organization in this sector? 15 years, Your Majesty. They hunted down every government that had supported piracy, every corporation that had bought stolen goods, every individual who had profited from attacks on human ships. They did not stop until the entire network was gone. The Emperor closed his eyes. "And now we have lost 7 ships attacking one human vessel. What do you think they will do to us?" Before could answer, an urgent communication came through on the Emperor's personal channel. It was Admiral On, speaking from a medical ship somewhere in the Outer Rim. "Your Majesty, I have found the human colonists." Emperor felt hope and terror in equal measure. "Where?" "Station in the Forbidden Sector. Your Majesty, you need to see this." The transmission shifted to show the inside of what looked like a storage facility. Thousands of stasis pods lined the walls. Each pod contained a human in suspended animation. Men, women, children, families who had been traveling to start new lives on distant worlds. They were sold, Your Majesty, to collectors, researchers, private individuals who wanted exotic specimens. The station master has records going back 20 years. This is just one facility. Emperor watched the images in growing horror. Humans being sold like animals, families separated, children taken from their parents. How many other facilities? Unknown, Your Majesty, but this trade appears to be widespread throughout the empire. Black market dealers who specialize in rare species have been trafficking humans for decades. The emperor sat down heavily in his chair. His empire, built on principles of peace and justice, had been buying and selling human beings like livestock, and now the humans knew. Admiral, secure that facility immediately. Free every human you find, and begin searching for other locations. Already in progress, Your Majesty, but sir, what do we tell the humans? Before the emperor could answer, another communication came through. This time it was from the Retribution. Your Majesty, Commander's voice was ice cold. I believe you have something that belongs to us. The emperor looked at his advisors. Every face reflected the same fear. The humans knew. They had always known. This was not a search mission. It was a rescue operation. Commander, we were not aware of these crimes. If our citizens have taken your people, we will return them immediately. Your citizens have been buying and selling my people for 20 years, Commander replied. 50,000 from the New Geneva alone. But our records show other ships that disappeared in your territory, other families that were taken. The emperor's voice was barely a whisper. How many? 200,000 humans, Your Majesty. Men, women, children, sold into slavery, experimentation, private collections. Some of them have been in stasis for decades. The number hit the emperor like a physical blow. 200,000, an entire planet's worth of people. What do you want from us? I want my people back, all of them, and I want the criminals who took them punished. And if we comply? There was a long pause. When Commander spoke again, her voice had changed slightly, not softer but different, more human. Then we take our people home and forget this place exists. The empire continues as before. You govern your territory as you see fit. And if we refuse? Another pause, longer this time. Your Majesty, you seem like a reasonable being, so I'll be honest with you. 16 hours ago, you attacked one of our ships. In Imperial space, that's considered an act of war. By rights, I should call for a full battle fleet and turn this entire sector into a debris field. The Emperor felt his heart stop beating. But I don't want to do that. Your species are not warriors. Most of your people had nothing to do with the slave trade. It would be wasteful to kill billions over the crimes of thousands. Then what are you proposing? Help me find my people. Prosecute the criminals according to your own laws. Make sure this never happens again, and we'll call it even. The Emperor looked around at his advisors. They were offering him a way out, a chance to avoid the complete destruction of his civilization. We will comply immediately, Commander. Every human in Imperial space will be located and returned. The criminals responsible will face justice. Good, I'll expect regular reports on your progress. My government will be sending ships to collect our people once you've found them. How many ships? Enough, Commander replied. Your Majesty understands something. We came here looking for colonists, not a war. But if you ever threaten human beings again, we'll come back with more than one ship. And next time we won't be interested in talking. The communication ended. The Emperor sat in silence for several minutes, processing what had just happened. His empire had been saved by the mercy of the same species that had once sterilized 57 star systems. The humans could have destroyed them all. Instead, they had chosen to rescue their people and leave. New imperial law, he said finally. Any harm to human beings of any kind is punishable by execution. Any trade in human beings is an act of treason against the Empire. Yes, Your Majesty. And make sure this story is taught in every school in the Empire. Our children need to understand what nearly happened here. A year later, the last human was found and returned to their people. The slave traders were prosecuted and executed. The Empire's laws were rewritten to protect any species that might be vulnerable to such crimes. And in the deepest archives, a new entry was made. The humans remember everything. They forgive nothing. They protect their own above all else. Do not test them again. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Some species were meant to be left alone.